What is poppin'? We are back. I am back for like all of 2 days. And then the uploads are all pre-recorded again. But I needed to come back because we have literally the biggest shift we are going to get for at least another few months. I think DLC 1 stuff hits us before the end of 2023 tier shift-wise, but for now, look at all this wonderful new Pokemon. And so many of them are going to be banned, but I'm going to talk about them all as if they're staying in NU for at least, multiple weeks. If you've been enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe. If not already subscribed, join as a member, leave a like, leave a comment, turn on the bell, do literally all those fun little things. Let's get it out. Before we actually talk about the NU stuff, I am just going to highlight these little Pokemon right here that fell into UU. I will not be commenting on why the hell Ursaluna and Roaring Moon and Hoopa Unbound are now in that tier. But they can figure that out. That's not my problem. That's theirs. And I'm going to talk about the Pokemon that all dropped into NUBL. Because yesterday's upload, of course, talked about mons that we could be potentially unbanning into NU. Because, well, they fell back to NUBL. And this isn't all-encompassing what's currently in NUBL, because we've got some mons like Dunsparce, Jolteon, I think Titan, and like regular Oricorio that are currently in UBL, but these are all the new additions, and I'm gonna keep it a stack. I don't think any of these get unbanned, like at all, especially like Tornadus, hell no, because Rain is really broken. And when I say really broken, what I mean, of course, is Rain was already really good, and it got multiple new really good Pokemon, so I don't think Rain is I don't think making Rain teams insane is particularly conducive to a good tier. I don't see a world where these Oricorios are any less obscene now than they were. I mean, just looking at the drops, there's not really much that dropped that even impedes them, so, there's that. Maybe Indeedee, this is like the one Pokemon I see here that I think there's an argument. And it kind of comes full circle to in Pokemon Sword and Shield when we retested Indeedee originally. Because our logic at the time was, well, Indeedee female sucks, so surely Indeedee male is not that broken. And then, well, we tested it, it was overwhelmingly voted to stay banned, and then female Indeedee surged because people, they looked at it and they're like, hey, it's not that much different. Surely it's also really good, right? Yeah, then that got banned. I do think there's still a chance, though, because there's, again, you compare this mon to the others. It just is at a lower power level, and you look at it from last gen compared to this gen, there are a lot of differences, the biggest, of course, being that it lost Mystical Fire, I think, oh yeah, and Expanding Force, so those are huge changes. And we did get Steel types in the tier shift. We still have the ability for things to Terrastalize into Steel, so maybe Indeedee. Hoopa, I don't know, man. Look at the mons that dropped. You could say Hoopa's not really much different than a lot of these others, and I do agree with that. A lot of these new drops, it's not like Hoopa power-wise is all that much higher, so maybe Hoopa, say with like, I'm talking myself into thinking at least some of these are okay. It's like something like Goodra's similar, where I don't feel like it's necessarily that high above the power level. I just, again, look at the mons that we have, even through drops, and I'm, like, asking myself, is this really enough to contain Goodra? You gotta ask yourself, again, the Eternal, compare it to last gen. Is the situation that much different? I'll let y'all judge that. Frostmoth, wow, that's not at all what I meant to do. But Frostmoth, as I was saying, it still does the same stuff that it did earlier, where you run, like, one entire set, and it is Terra Ground, and you just wump the Steel types. So I think it will still be a pretty dumb Pokemon, but maybe we decide, hey, because the tier's power level overall is higher, it's not going to have really the same opportunity to set up. I could see that being a case. And then Scuda, we'll talk about this stupid guy later, but just given the state of water type checks in NU, I struggle to see Scuda being any less obscene, and again, we compare it to Tornadus, where do we really want to make Rain even better? Let's talk about Pokemon. So our Balava dropping to NU. This is a mon people thought would be NU originally, because it just didn't look that incredible. I think people, naturally at the time, undersold how good Seed Sower or even just Harvest would be on the Mon. It is eternal. It does not die. It's also really, really strong, really bulky as well, in tandem with the incredible recovery it's got. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem. And it's interesting because we already have Appleton as a predominant grass type in the tier, but this thing has Stab H-Voice, which is pretty strong. Pretty good. The trade-off being, yeah, you've got Stab H-Voice, but you can't actually recover versus something like Appleton. And I'm talking about strengths out there. We got Galarkuno too, which is another mon that can punish that. We've got something like Primeape or Passimian, these mons also dropping, that have Defiant and can punish the use of Strength Sap. So I think this mon's going to be a fine addition to the tier. People are going to absolutely despise facing it. I'm going to laugh at everyone for it too, because I'm just like, wow, complain about a little olive tree. Okay. Yeah, this is how far we've fallen. But I think it's going to be a really, really obnoxious addition nonetheless. It should be pretty nice. I mean, like I said, we did not get any bulky water types. I'm going to spoil that now. And so, our Bulb was at least a bulky water resist. It, you know, we thought we'd maybe get Vaporeon or even like Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri is not a bulky water type, but it is still immune to water. Of course, Vaporeon is both of those. Our Bulb at least kind of does some of what we want there. And on the complete flip side of it, Galarian Articuno. What? No, please no. This was a mon people thought maybe would even hold on to UU because terastallizing, it's got stored power, really good setup stuff. I am still pretty concerned about it from an NU lens. We've got steel types, yes, but Earthworm, a drop down here you can see, not known for its special bulk. And Caparaja, I mean, yeah, it's got good special bulk, however, we remember the calcs from last gen. The mon is strong, and I think setup sets could end up being kind of problematic. It's another one of those options where I look at everything that dropped around it, and I don't feel like it's something I would immediately call a problem, right? It's just something that I'm scared of going forward, because it does look like it's going to be one of the best Terastallize abusers we have. And of course, any like super potent setup sweeper that can snowball games out of control is always going to be looked at with a bit of a side eye from people. Colossal, it finally drops, probably months later than it should have. I don't want to say that this mon won't be any good, because I think it's dumb to write something off too early. However, I think we have better Pokemon than it. I mean, it's a Salazzle check. I mean, it's Salazzle counter in some ways. Suppose you get toxic, you could get knocked off and lose your boots. Those are natural detriments to the mon's overall success in the matchup. But it still seems like it's going to be a pretty solid option. It's also, I was going to say it's a Toxtricity check, but Overdrive probably just two-shots you with very minimal chip needed, so I won't be retracting that statement. But despite all that, it's a rocker, it's a spiker, it's a spinner. It's very versatile in what you could use it for on a team, which I think is pretty cool. It's a flying resist, which is something I've clamored for having more of. Before this shift, it felt like NU had none. Now we have multiple, so that's pretty cool. Copperaj is finally back. It's one of the two steel types we get in the shift. I think it's going to be incredible. We got so many new Stealth Rock options. I'm so happy. I didn't even see this drop when I was looking at the list earlier. Oh, this ball. But Raja is going to be doing what it did originally in NU when we had it as gen. It's going to be trying to hold the fort down. Steel types, I just find necessary in most team building because the typing offers you so much defensively. And while we didn't get any offensive fairy types to worry about, we did get multiple offensive psychic types, or just psychic types in general. I mean, we got Meloetta, we got potential of NDD, we got Uxie even. Delphox doesn't count at all. we know why, but you know what? Maybe you gotta switch into a psychic move. Even something like Mismagius, you do check. Rotom, Mo, we've seen Copperaj be relied to pivot around Mo in Sword and Shield NU, so there's that at least. Don't have Heat Crash for it this time though, smile. But it's going to be an incredible option. I think it's going, like I said, be tasked with checking an awful lot of Pokemon, and maybe even potential NUBLs that we free. Decidueye is a defogger. It's a grass type. It learns a lot of utility. you know, this is one of the drops I'm really happy to get. I don't think it's gonna be some overly insane offensive mon, because we have plenty of defensive options to keep it contained. It's not like when we had it in like the home metagame last time around, because if you compare Sword and Shield's home metagame to this one, it's a lot lower of a power level. So I think Decidueye, just in comparison, like, we're not going to be forced to run Sap Super Mill Tank on 40% of teams just to check Decidueye this time around. Instead, I think we'll see it be run for defogging sets. I mean, you might have to run, like... I was gonna say you might have to run Physical Bulk. I really don't know if that's going to be ideal. But I think it depends on what we're most worried about for Stealth Rockers. So, like, something like Sandaconda, which... we got literally no... Somehow we win a shift and didn't get a single ground type. So Sandaconda is still going to be an incredible Pokemon. But I think you still check it fine with special defense anyway, so I don't think you need it there. Same with something like Knuckle Stack. You don't really need to invest in bulk there. Earthworm, you don't need to invest in bulk. I think for the Hazard Setters matchup, you'd be asking about how well you take on Kaparaja, which is where I think you may end up needing a physical bulk. So I could see some physically defensive U-turn, Defog, Roost, Grass moveset being pretty good. I think offensive sets will still be really good because Decidueye has both Swords Dance and Nasty Plot, so you could pick, you know, go either way. Physical sets, of course, having priority is really good. I think Specs probably works fine as well. Shadow Ball plus Leaf Storm is just incredible coverage, and the only Pokemon that's really wanting to tank those hits is, you know, not named Blissey. You'd be like looking at Bombardier. I'm here to tell y'all right now, I don't think Bombardier is going to be particularly great now with the metagame much stronger. So, I'd keep an eye on offensive Decid as well, but I'm very excited to look at it for defensive purposes. Delphox dropping. This mon, when it went to RU last month, I'm pretty sure it was like top tier. Or no, when it went to RU in July, it was like top tier for a month, and then it... then they get tier shifts, and it's just immediately evaporated. That's incredible. Delphox figures to be really good here too, though. Like I said earlier, we don't have bulky water types, so if you want to resist water moves, you're looking at grass types. But yeah, those do not resist fire. So, what's your next best bet? Well, okay, you look for, I don't know, maybe rock types. Well, we've got Colossal. I'm here to tell you right now, that ain't holding up too well against something like Plot Fox. Knuckle Stack ain't holding up too well against Plot Fox. And then you got something like maybe Blissey's your check, but oh, you got Psyshocked. Fun. Oh, I'll Pursuit Trap it. This is not Gen 7, friend. You can't do that. So, Plot Fox sounds like probably one of the strongest set of options we're going to have in the tier. Again, I look at the list of drops we got, I don't see, other than just general offensive counterplay, which admittedly there's a lot of here. I mean, there's a lot of offensive counterplay to Fox here, just in terms of mons that are faster than it. So it's not like we're gonna lack that, it's just, ugh. Jeez, trying to check it defensively sounds like it's going to be a very tall task. Dreadnought, I'm going to just say, I know said I was going to talk about like all these mons were going to be here for a couple weeks. I don't think Dreadnought lasts 5 days. I think I may have already told my Coatiel that we should ban Dreadnought day like 1. So it gets Shell Smash now. We don't have Pokemon that stop a +2 Dreadnought. And although there's the option of saying, well, just don't let it set up, I'm here to tell you right now, if that's the only way of dealing with Dreadnought, there's a problem. There's a huge problem. Now, I don't remember Dreadnought's speed. I'm pretty sure it is faster than Cloyster. I think it's base 75. I'll check the dex just to fact check myself, but I think it's base 75. 74. Okay, it doesn't really change anything. It means that +2, any like relevant Scarfer is gonna outrun it. There's like Scarf Lazzle you could run. Or like, yeah, I think Scarf Salazzle is technically faster even than Jolly Dreadnought. I believe you're at 270 if you're Jolly. with max speed and then 540. So yeah, Scarf Lazzle's faster. But you'd have to be like, what, Terra Blast Grass at that point? And that seems like an awful lot of counter-teching to beat one Pokemon. Otherwise, I mean, like, Scarf Rotom is slower. I guess you want to run Scarf Hisuian Electrode? Be my guest. Be my guest. You can run that set. You can have fun with that. I don't think there's actual meaningful counterplay at all to this mon. Hisuian Electrode, by the way. Yeah. Have fun, everyone. I think, compare it to, like, Rotom-Mow. I don't actually... Does this mon get growth? Hold on, let me... Oh, nope. Wrong dex. Let me cook real quick. Let me cook. Hold on. Hisui Electro. Do I learn growth? Well, this doesn't include growth. Do I learn it? I don't. Unfortunate. But I think this spawn should be less annoying than Rotom-Mow from last gen for many, many reasons. The foremost of which being you don't have Trick to just cripple whatever wants to try and switch into you. So defensive counterplay will naturally last longer, and of course, in addition to that, it's just not as strong. It's only base 80 special attack. Rotom was like 109 or something. That helps too. This mon can't boost to fix that. It can run Modest, probably, which there's something to that. And of course, you got Electro Ball actually being like a usable move on this mon too, because it is so fast. The move pool is also like incredibly limited, so beyond literally your stab moves, you have nothing. So you have to run Terra Blast for your coverage. A little different than Jolteon, I would say, because Jolteon at least had like both normal and ghost moves, which complemented your stab move very nicely, because it gave you moves that were at least neutral versus whatever was switching into Thunderbolt, or like Volt Switch even. Hisuian Electro doesn't have that same thing going for it, so you want to talk about like Terror Alliance, it's going to be more profound with this mon compared to like a Jolteon would be. I think it's going to be I think people will still hate playing against it, but I don't think it's going to be like a world beater. Flamigo, on the other hand, I think it's going to be a world beater. We got a lot of new fighting types. Just even looking right here, there's like 3 of them. 4 if you count Mellow with a Pirouette. And then like 5, 6, 7. Don't worry, the Passimian will be the best of them, Copium. Again, Flamigo is better Passimian. It is faster, it is stronger. I don't know if it's stronger, but I know it's faster. It has dual stab. Who's get Brave Bird too. The bro's seeming like he's gonna be a bit of a problem. I don't see what checks Scarf Passimian in our tier. Maybe you do, and I've just not opened my eye to that. I guess we got Houndstone. Defensive Houndstone's an option. Colossal, if you don't switch into CC, at least you could punish Brave Bird maybe with Flame Body. But that one's definitely looking bleak, but Flamigo will be a great Scarfer. It's going to be great with Band. I think it gets setup moves. It'll be good with those. Looking like a great mon. Glassed is one of the mons that I'm not as sure on, because if you look back to last gen in NU, the big issue with Glassed ended up being, you know, we banned it immediately, and then we suspect tested, because we're like, we think it might be broken, but we don't want to just keep it banned. So let's, you know, do the ban of the suspect, preserve Tor integrity, give it a couple more weeks. And people, through the suspect test, realized, okay, this mon is really good, but it's not, like, broken. And then people used it more and more, and they're like, wait, this mon's kind of bad. And then it fell out of favor. And then it came back near the end of the gen because it ended up being a pretty good counter team option, because it takes advantage of all those passive water types that are so common in Sword and Shield NU. But the issues that ended up having were, of course, speed. So, you know, it's a really strong mon, but it's always moving second, basically. And you can add on to that issue, it's got great bulk, sure, but the speed. So, it's bad. You can't really leverage the bulk to try and switch in ever, because you're probably just moving second anyway. And since your defensive typing's so trash, it's hard to make use of the bulk, too. So just a lot of its strengths ended up being hard to capitalize on, but Terastallizing might be able to save it. As now I don't have to be an ice type, I could be like a water type. And that's a lot better defensively, so maybe the mon has a bit more use. Sword sets could be easier to leverage now, because you don't have to stay as a stupid little ice type, you could become something far more sinister. I don't know, I'm gonna have to see it in action. It's too hard for me to say just on paper about this mon, because As interested as I am in its prospects this gen, it's really funny. Last gen, I remember at a point I just randomly liked using Glast a ton. So now it's back, and I'm like, huh, do I want to do that again? I just feel like there are obvious benefits to it, the form of terastallizing and a little bit lower power level anyway. But also, how many mons do we have that it'll exploit? It's hard to say right now because the tier has not formed, but that's, I think, what's going to be the main determinant for how good Glast can be. Unless, like, offensive sets are just so overbearing because they kill everything. I think the second question will be, what mons exist in the tier for Glacier to switch into and, like, set up a sub-on that can't be broken. Hariyama dropped, and well, this mon is probably going to also try Terra Steel Belly Drum stuff with Bullet Punch. I am scared. I am very scared. I don't know how you stop those. We have faster Pokemon that resist Bullet Punch, but I have to look at calcs, because does Salazzle just get one-shot? And also, does Salazzle KO Yama after it gets the Yum Yum Berry? Obviously, Mismagius is getting slammed by Terra Steel BP. You know, does something like Passimian even just get one shot? I think that's going to be the question for Hariyama and whether it's balanceable. How many mons is it threatening to just straight up murk once it gets the drum up? And then for the ones that it doesn't one-shot, how close is it to one-shotting? Like, how easy is it to get the chip on? Otherwise, I mean, I do like the idea of it as an Assault Vest mon, because Thick Fat means you actually are a really good fire resist. That would be really nice for having a Salazzle deterrent. Also, you could even run, like, Assault Vest with Guts. And so you're probably still taking Fire Blast well, but then you also benefit from being hit by a potential Toxic, which is cool. Heracross, I'm here to tell you right now as well, this mon is probably ridiculous. I think we'll probably be okay with letting it exist for, you know, a week or two. Because it's not, the fastest mon ever, although it gets Trailblaze. Heracross is interesting. It's good. Again, I don't have a lot to say about some of these mons, because we already know what they do. Heracross will run Scarf Moxie, or like Flame Orb Guts with Trailblaze, and it's going to obliterate things. Defensively, I look at like something like maybe Houndstone as a check. But there's not a ton past that. Like, you've got faster mons, yes, until it Trailblazes, or is Scarf. So it's going to be a tricky mon. I would be on the lookout for Heracross, and honestly a lot of the fighting types to maybe be looked at as a little OP. But I'm hopeful for him. I'm hopeful. I want to be able to use good fighting types. Houndstone drops, and again, this mod's like... Houndstone I look at as maybe one of the best defensive drops we got because of all the fighting types. Like, it checks Heracross, it checks Flamigo, I don't know if it checks Paldea Blaze Tauros, because Fluffy isn't actually good versus it because of Fire Raging Bull. But it actually looks decent as a physical wall. You check Copperajah. You probably check Dreadnought, unless it's like Terra Dark Crunch, that might blast you, but if you aren't one-shot, you could Wisp it in return. That's actually pretty cool. I would definitely be on the lookout for Mr. not Heracross, Mr. Houndstone being decent defensively. It does nothing else. Literally nothing else is notable here. And it doesn't even really have much of a move pool, but I do think something like Nightshade, Will-O-Wisp, Body Press, and then maybe like Roar. I think that sounds okay. Inteleon, I'm gonna let y'all in a little secret. I want this one banned right now. I don't even need to look at anything. I don't even need to play the tier. Look at Inteleon and then look at NU. Please tell me how we're checking it. Because I'd love to hear answers that are not just these really passive special walls that are going to be U-turned on repeatedly. It's not like it's uncheckable. Because again, I just gave you an idea. Blissey, Articuno, Cryogonal. These mons tank Hydro Pump. They also are very passive and very easy to exploit if I just U-turn on them repeatedly. And you compare Inteleon to something like Toxtricity, which is similarly stupid on paper. Inteleon is fast! So, again, you're faster than Salazzle. You're faster than I'm trying to look at mons that dropped, and honestly, it's so hard to see anything other than Salazzle in terms of an immediately fast mon that isn't running Scarf. But you're faster than Salazzle, you're faster than, say, like, Zoroark if we ever unban that, you're faster than regular Tauros, you're faster than, Hisuian Sneasel is another one, assuming non-Scarf. So, that's fun. Oh, here you go, another Revenge Killer for Dreadnought, Hisuian Sneasel. Scarf on that actually would be a good deterrent. I would need to check the exact speed for Jolly, but I think base 74 might actually be slower even with Jolly, or it's a speed tie. But yeah, that's beside the point. This mon is... I don't know how you really deal with it, because we have water resists, like there's Appleton, and Ice Beam still does so much is the issue. It's the Jolteon situation all over again, where yes, you take one of the stab moves, and you don't necessarily get smashed by the coverage, but like you don't take it well, and you have to Terra to not get two-shot. And once you've Terra'd, you are then under heavy pressure from the other moves, so it's not that good. I mean, there's like Arbalava as a new drop, but I don't think you take Specs Ice Beam very well. Same with like bulky Decidueye sets. So I'm not too sure how long Inteleon can realistically stick around. At least in this meta. It's a mon that I do believe would be revisited, but hard to say that it has any long-term viability to stick around. Meloetta is another mon where I'm pretty scared of, but I'm happy to see it play out. It's just very, very versatile, because you've got boosting, you've got U-turn, so you could run Choiced. Specs is incredibly strong, and also has great coverage, so you can run like Psyshock, Hyper Voice, Focus Blast, U-turn is like an idea. You could fit Thunderbolt in there. Maybe you run Thunderbolt action instead of Focus Blast, and then you have a way to hit Articuno. So that's a scary mon. I think we'll see some people try out Relic Song stuff too, just so they can use Meloetta Pirouette, which is even faster. I think even maybe a little stronger, or the same attack as it has special attack. I don't remember, but very potent Pokemon. Definitely another mon where I'm going to have my eyes on it, because compared to NDD, for example, yes, it's slower, but you have far better coverage. And you don't have to, like, Terrastalize to get coverage, either, which is, of course, useful. This Magius is looking like a demon. It's a fast ghost type, and we banned Hoopa, which was a slow ghost type. This Magius also, you remember the live I did with Magius, and we ran sub NP with Terra Fairy Draining Kiss, and it kind of just ran through everything. I feel like it would do the same thing in current NU. But we do have a lot of faster Pokemon. Yes, a lot of them have to run Scarf, but we do have a lot of options to Revenge Kill. This Magius' physical bulk especially is very ass. Even its special bulk isn't that great, because the HP stat's like 60 on this one, so even though you've got, I think it's 105 base special defense, it's a little bit misleading. You're not actually that bulky, so it's another mon that I have my eyes on, but I don't think it's something that jumps out as, oh yeah, this needs to be banned, like, quick. Knuckle Stack is either going to be an incredibly fun drop, or it's going to be the bane of everyone's existence. Now, it gives us something that can switch to just about any utility move you'd ever want because of Purifying Salt, and you got the Salt Cure stuff. I don't know how much it lives up to the potential identity of just being Baby Garganackle, because the bulk is obviously not as good. The stats in general, I should say, are just not as good. So trying setup sets probably isn't as good, unless it still gets Iron Defense and Body Press. I could see something there. I would say the special bulk is where it's really going to be feeling pressure, though. Because like I talked about with Salazzle, assuming the mon still is knockoff, I feel like there's going to be other checks to it, too, that can have item displacement. I have to look at the list of mons in NU now, because it's so much different. Like, say you wanted to check something like Zoroark, even, if we unbanned that, right? Well, you know, maybe you Terra Fairy, so you can check it better. You can still just get knocked later and then smashed by a Sludge Bomb, so it's not like the safest mod ever. The Violite-reliant mons, I think, are always going to kind of have that issue. But it's a mon that I'm interested in as well, because it has Stealth Rock. And I'm just trying to get away from Sandaconda everywhere meta. Earthworm is fun for the same reason, but Earthworm is really fun because of what it has defensively going for it. It's a steel type immune to ground moves. And I'm just all for that. Not only because it's a steel type, but because having ground immunities is always something I think you want on teams. Anytime I've seen a team get used in tournaments that didn't have a ground type, or not a ground type immunity, I always bet against it from preview because it just, even in tiers where there's not strong ground types, I feel like letting people throw off Earthquake, the move, for free is really just not worth it. Ever? Like, even if it's like a Sandaconda throwing off Earthquakes, you don't want to run into Coilconda and just get reamed by it. So having a mon that can help with that's pretty cool. Yes, something like Sandaconda could have, you know, you could even recoil with Body Press still, but it's something. And it's got both Stealth Rocket Spike, so you've got some options for how you want it to work as a hazard setter. Again, it's another flying resist, which I am all for. It just sucks because, like, our flying resists are what? Braviary, which has CC, although I don't know if Braviary will be too relevant anymore. Flamigo, which has stab CC, which is not much better. In fact, it's worse. And like Bombardier, which is gonna knock you and it probably just U-turn the rest of the game. And also, rarely runs Brave Bird anyway. So, I don't know. Passimian dropped, and wow, it might actually not even be good right now, just because of competition. That's hilarious. Primeape! It's gonna have Rage Fist, and I'm scared of a Violite, Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Rage Fist. I feel like that is going to get 6 kills every game it's used. So, we'll see. Primeape's another mon where I don't think I see a need to push for the ban of it, like, on day 1. But it's, again, keep a close eye on it, because it's a mon that can snowball games really, really, really hard out of nowhere. And I just don't know what the counterplay is. Even something like Houndstone could suffer, because, yeah, the mon actually has a move to obliterate you. It could have Taunt as well, and just deny you the ability of burning it. And think about other checks. I mean, you've got some stuff like the bulky Psychics, and we saw Mesprit, we got Uxie. These mons could also have Terra to maybe bother Primeape in terms of, okay, can I Rage Fist you, or am I needing to Drain Punch, or do I just need to switch out? It's a little bit dicey of a mon. I think item displacement also comes in kind of big here versus it, though, because you could get, like, Trick to Scarf, and that's not as good. You could get Toxic at some point. That's not as good, obviously. Oh no, very scary mon. Also, having Defiant makes me ever wanting to switch a Quillfish to Toxicate. It's a good way of dissuading that. Definitely. I mean, I guess go to Poison Point again. Probably gonna have to, actually. But let's continue. Rotom-Mow. I'm here to tell you right now, this mon is not one that I brought up for, like, maybe needing to be nuked out of orbit quickly, but it's definitely gonna get that consideration. I mean, I don't know. I look at Rotom-Mow and I'm like, comparing it to Sword and Shield, is it really any different in current Sword and Shield NU compared to, like, now in Scarlet Violet NU? We have, like, one ground type that sees real usage, and it gets Leaf Stormed and dies. Okay, seem pretty similar. And then we have some grass types that can kind of offset Rotom-Mow's impact. Also seem pretty similar to Sword and Shield. The potential, too, to freeing Goodra, I mean, that could actually help contain Rotom-Mow as well. I think it's going to be S+ once again. I'm happy to let it sit around for a little bit. I don't think it'll stay in you, but maybe we'll be surprised. Salazzle looks incredibly scary because we have nothing to check it that is a water type. Now, we do have mons that check it, so I don't think it's going to be just an easy, quick ban, but it's going to be very problematic. You've got, in terms of checks, we got, like I mentioned, Colossal and Knackle. You're going to have to look at rock types. Those are 2 new drops. They both check it very well. Knackle stat can't even be toxic. Past that, you're looking at Scarfers. So like something like Rotom-Mow, we see in Sword and Shield NU. Rotom-Mow constantly applies pressure to Salazzle with its Volt Switches. I mean, Salazzle has no bulk at all, so it's very easy to offensively pressure. Something like, even Scarf, Hisui, and Sneasel probably is a good deterrent because yeah, your moves are resisted, but you're so strong and Salazzle's so frail. It wouldn't shock me if CC picked it off from like 60%. Maybe even higher. And while it's still in the tier, you got Inteleon, something like Scarf Flamigo as well with Brave Bird could pick it off. Scarf Delphox, if you ran that, could pick it off. There's plenty of faster Pokemon. I'm just unsure if there's enough defensively that'll keep it in check, because I think when you're looking at offensive Pokemon, you want to make sure there is a reasonable blend of offensive and defensive counterplay. And if there's not, then that's where you gotta start asking, okay, is it worth keeping around? Or is the onus... that's not really the right way to use that word. Or is the task of beating it just too inconsistent? Anyhow, Paldean Tauros Blaze. Now this mon's a fun one. We had been eyeing it as a potential drop since the start of the month, or last month. And I don't really remember why. I think it's just that there was competition for the slot in Ariu that was kind of making it fall off. And as I look at this mon, and I look at the other drops around it, I am similarly scared of it to where I was like with Flamigo, Hariyama, and Heracross. I'm just like, I don't know what's supposed to prevent it from getting 50 kills in any given game. It's not even like it has to run Flare Blitz and be reliant on a recoil move. Like, if you run the choice sets, you are weak to hazards. I think that's a pretty notable issue for it. And we still have Quillfish. Like I was mentioning, we didn't get any bulky water types. We still do have that as an option. The Mon learns Wild Charge, which is kind of annoying. But again, it's a recoil move, so I mean, maybe you're looking at hazards plus recoil plus helmet. I think that's really going to just be where we look at this Mon from. Are the sets that take damage from hazards going to be what's really good? Because if so, I think there's more room for counterplay. Or are boot sets going to be like all it runs, and are those going to be just too good? Like, I draw that line because I feel that would limit its offensive potential enough if it's being forced to run sets that just take a million damage from injury hazards every time they switch in. If it has to do that, then yeah, I think you could actually keep it in check just through aggressive play, not giving it free turns to attack you. If not, yeah, good luck. Toxtricity, I'm gonna let you all know a little secret. Yeah, this is one of the other mons that I was talking about might need a ban. Because look at Inteleon. Now take away even more potential counterplay, because technically, yes, this mon learns Drain Punch and can very effectively use it. I mean, again, think about all the mons we mentioned as potential checks to Inteleon. You got Cryogonal, you got Blissey, you got Articuno. I don't think these mons actually check Toxtricity. As odd as it is, yeah, Articuno, the flying type, not checking the electric type. And I think you could tech Drain Punch well enough to hit the others, and then you have a mon with basically super effective coverage for everything. With Toxtricity, the question is going to be the following. Is the offensive potential outweighing how bad its speed is? Because at least compared to Inteleon, this mon sits like 100 speed slower, so the amount of Pokemon that are outrunning this mon is very, very high. So like, even just looking at drops that we got, Galarian Articuno would revenge kill it, Delphox would revenge kill it, Hisuian Electrode could, which it probably needed, Flamigo could, Heracross could, Inteleon could, Meloetta could, Mismagius could, Passimian could with EQ. Primeape, I guess if you ran non-Rage Fist, it could, I think. Rotomo could, Lazzle could, Paldean Tauros could, Typh could. So there's a lot of mons that would keep it contained offensively until, you know, you get like Shift Gyarados and lose, or maybe even Scarf Toxtricity, although a lot of those mons are in Scarf too, so wouldn't actually help versus them, but you get the point. There's a lot more to contain it from an offensive standpoint. It's just, how do you draw the line, right? Between a mon that has maybe no defensive counterplay, but a good amount of offensive counterplay. Do you still say it's too much because you can't actually switch into it with any amount of consistency? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a great answer. I mean, as a TL, I'm inclined to say that I think you want a bit of both. And so if something has a fair amount of offensive counterplay, but still is, like, realistically not like, reasonable to pivot around, yeah. I think it's fine to say a Mon should be able to two-shot most of the tier and still be tiered, you know, outside of a ban list. Because, okay, say you can two-shot everything, but you're still too slow to, like, safely do it. I think that's okay. It's a strong Mon that you have to play aggressively versus. I don't think that's inherently problematic. Toxicity's question will really just come down to, can it still do that with shift gear? Because if shift gear sets still do that, then yeah. I think at that point you just have to ban it, because it negates all the offensive counterplay. Serena is going to be a really cool option, though. Gives us another spinner, it's a pivot. It lost knockoff, I believe. It lost a lot of coverage. But I don't think that'll actually matter for it a ton. Really, it's just a matter of giving us another spinner. And it's going to have pretty good synergy with spikers that we already have in the tier, like Quillfish, like new spikers, like Colossal. I mean, it's another Mon that, like, randomly is really useful into Pokemon, like Earthworm, it's going to check pretty decently, I would say. Knuckle Stack, it's going to have a good matchup versus, you would say, Anaconda, it should be pretty decent into. So it's a good drop. Typhlosion is one of the Mons I'm, like, least sure of, because I don't know what we're using to check it. The nice thing, at least, Eruption, again, is a Mon where you look at it. The difference between it and Pouty and Blaze, I think it will need to run choice items to be effective. And if it wants to spam Eruption the whole game, well, yeah, you better not let hazards go up. If hazards go up, though, yeah. Not as good. Not as good. And you get the question of Scarf versus Specs. I think both are going to be good. But if it's not Scarf, there's at least more that's revenge killing you, which I do value. I just wish we had Vaporeon for, like, specifically this Mon. Again, something like AV Hariyama, if we're allowed to keep it in the tier. I mean, that would be good to have. Even Knuckle Stack probably checks it okay. You may have to Terra Water, though, to do it. Colossal's a similar Mon where you might need to Terra Water just because Focus Blast is a real move. But otherwise, I think you check it pretty decently. Keep an eye on it, but I don't think it should be broken. And in Uxie, man, people were already saying Mesprit was OP, which I, to this day, will stand on the hill, die on the hill. That Mesprit was vastly overrated by everyone complaining about it. But I digress. Don't need to care about that Mon anymore because it's old meta. Uxie is going to compound a lot of those issues because although it's a lot weaker, so you won't see Specs dominating, it's so much bulkier and could still do the same setup stuff. So, I mean, hey, you thought sub-Draining Kiss stuff was already annoying? Well, here it is cracked out. It's basically just Cresselia. If Cresselia looked like it came from a different planet. And, I mean, I'll give my brief commentary on ones we dropped to Piu and why they dropped. Hisuian Avalok dropped because it's terrible. Cacturne dropping, honestly, is a little surprising, but I think it's mostly explained away by how much competition it saw for a slot. You're looking at, and I mentioned this, I believe, in a VR ship video, but if you're looking at the best grass types, well, Cacturne's not really one of them, because Appleton's better. And Lurantis still saw a lot of use, too, for defogging. Appleton's the one where you put the most emphasis there, though, just given how good Appleton was by the end of its time in Blast meta. I mean, that Mon was legitimately being considered within VR chat for an S- ranking. And then as a Dark type, and conveniently also as a Spiker, you get just outclassed by Quillfish, Hisuian. Bombardier is really good. And it doesn't help that Mons like Croak and Hazel, which can actually kind of switch into your offensive moves pretty well, and then threaten you out the next turn. Also very problematic, very common Pokemon. Still, in terms of last meta, a really good Pokemon, but I think it was one of those issues of Mons eating away at other Mons' usage because they all are competing for that same slot, and Cacturne just ended up being the worst of the options, and so yeah, even though it's still really good, ends up dropping. Kamala dropped because it sucks. I am not using Kamala. This checks nothing. It does nothing. I don't care if it learns Rapid Spin and we have, like, nothing else. I don't care. Use better Pokemon. Raichu Alola dropping was, like... I don't even want to say it was surprising, because this Mon didn't see a lot of use. I just think it should have maybe seen more use. But, like... once Jolteon went, Rotom regained its Stranglehold on the electric type slot, because Scarf Rotom just did everything you needed it to in one, or everything you'd like want out of it in that slot. You didn't care about other options to make up for the loss of Jolteon, because it didn't matter. Rotom just did different stuff, and it did it in such a unique way. There was no compensating needed. You had your Sandaconda Abuser, you had your Item Displacer. It was still strong enough to revenge kill things. And so, while people experimented with mons like the Raichus and Electrode, they just ended up being inferior. Because they're, at the end of the day, they're slower because they're not running a Scarf. And then in the case of like Electrode, it's piss weak. The mon's just terrible. And then, frankly, I think at the end of the day, Cantonian Raichu is the only one that ever really had justification for a team slot, because at least it still offered you that electric immunity. It gave you something more than just being a terrible electric type. The others didn't, and so yeah, I think Raichu Alola just... the most it really was doing was like the Encore set that I messed around with a bit. Otherwise, just who cares? Paldean Tauros, combat dropping. I think this mon just fell out of favor as more people just stuck to using only Toxicroak and Hisuian Sneasel. It's not like it's a bad mon at all. In those bulk up Trailblaze sets with, either Terra Rock Stone Edge or Terra Blast Electric, those are still really good. But you always had to figure out a way to get by Sandaconda, which was naturally pretty difficult. And then again, it's just like with Cacturne. Justify your slot based on typing. Can you be justifiably used over the others enough to where you stay in you? In this case, again, the answer was just no, because the competition was better. It's kind of the same with Medicham. Medicham just ends up retaining its spot in Inu because of how stupid strong it is. Like, Hazel and Croak are still really strong mons as well, but Medicham takes that up to Wumbo while still having priority as well. So there was at least always a reason to use Medicham. Paldean Combat just ended up not having much of a reason. And Veluza drops because... Veluza Lamau. I think PU players are going to shit their bricks seeing this mon drop. Have fun! I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm excited to play this new NU. We will have an entire one video go out tomorrow with the new drops, hopefully, if PS is updated. If not, I'll figure something out. But I'm excited to see what all is going to be changed about the tier. Obviously, it's going to be a ton. I want to see what sticks around, though, what ends up being irrelevant, and what ends up getting absolutely blasted into the next solar system because it is OP. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.